Hi, my name is Jamal, and I'm with the Alamo Code Learners Group here in San Antonio, Texas. We are just starting up working with Learn Python the hard way to help our group learn Python. So today I'm going to be talking about how to set that up on your system and how to get started. And I'm running this through Google Hangouts, so in the future, if anyone wants to join in on any of the videos, I'll be posting a link in the Slack channel, and y'all are welcome to join. So let's get started. First, I'm going to switch this over to desktop view so you can see my screen. Okay, so now you should be able to see my screen here. And let's see. Okay, so first of all, this is going to be on the Alamo Code YouTube channel. The link's right here, and if you go over here, you can view all of our videos as they go up. Hopefully we'll have a whole series of them on getting started with Python and helping people to get started with code. Oops. Let's see, here we go. Okay, if you aren't on the Alamo Code Slack channel, then there's a link here that will take you to a place where you can enter your email and get an invite as a Google form, and you can get involved in the conversation over there. And let's see, that's all the intro stuff I have here. So let's get right on into Learn Python the Hard Way. Learn Python the Hard Way is a book by Zed Shaw, and it is available online. Let me go ahead and open that up. Here is the table of contents. It is a really useful book, I found, because it breaks down the language and learning how to code in a way that you kind of get it in little chunks. Probably the biggest hurdle is what we're going to be talking about today, just kind of getting it started and making sure that your system's up and running. If you are having any issues with that, and if this video doesn't help you with it, then please feel free to reach out and on the Slack channel or on the Meetup channel or Meetup website. I'll be happy to help out with that if I can, or someone else can do it as well. So there's a couple things you do need to do in order to get started with this. But first, let me go to the introduction here, talking about the hard way is easier. And really what the author is talking about with the hard way is here. You're going to go through each exercise. You're going to type out the example code that he presents you the same way that that is presented on the page, and then just make it run. And it's pretty straightforward. It's actually it is quote unquote the hard way, but it's not that difficult to do. And so this intro is good to read, but probably not what I want to cover today. But definitely go through, read it, and check it out. Once you get through that, exercise 0 is setting it up on your PC, and I wanted to go through that a little bit today. I think that people are probably going to be on different platforms. Some people might have a Mac, some people might have Windows, other people are running Linux, and maybe you're not able to have your own PC and you're working maybe in a library or something like that where you don't necessarily have the ability to install your own software, or maybe you're on someone else's PC. So I wanted to give a few options for that. There are some great installation instructions here for Mac, Windows, and Linux. In those cases, what you're going to want to make sure that you have is a text editor, which just looks like this, or maybe like Notepad++ in Windows, or I think he recommends Text Wrangler on a Mac. This one's on Linux, but they're all pretty much the same. It's just a place to enter text, and it has some additional features available to you as well. He also talks about using the terminal. Terminal window is going to look like this or something similar to this. On Windows, it might be the PowerShell, and there's a terminal window on Macs as well. There's some basic setup to use the terminal window, and there's a really good command line tutorial from Zed Shaw, who's the author of Learn Python the Hard Way, talking about getting around the command line. If you are having difficulty or you don't want to go this route, maybe it's a little too intimidating, you can also get something called PyCharm, which is a little bit easier to use because it presents you with your full work environment. You can see where you are on your computer over here. You can enter your code here, and then you see the output here. So if you prefer to use PyCharm, let's see. There is the link. You can download a community version of it there. That's what I'm going to be using today, is PyCharm, just because I think it's a little bit easier for folks to get up and running with it. If you want to use the command line in a text editor, that's great too. Please feel free. Either way, if you have questions, please let me know. Okay, so then the final step you're going to need to do is download Python, and you can do that from download Python or from python.org downloads. We're going to be using Python 2.7, so you should be able to just click this button, run it, and install it. There is some additional troubleshooting stuff here on the Learn Python the Hard Way book, exercise 0 page. If you're using PyCharm, it should go through and help you set that up. And if you're not, if you just want to go out to the command line, you can see if you have Python already installed on your system by typing Python version like that with 2 dashes in front of it. And it should tell you what version of Python you're using if you have Python installed. If you don't, then it's going to give you an error message. So once you have that stuff set up and you're able to work through this kind of setup here in the book. Oh, one more thing I want to talk about. If you don't have a computer that you can install stuff into, like PyCharm or Python itself, there are some websites available that have Python environments that you can use. If you have maybe a library available to you or something like that, you can go to, first one is Python anywhere.com. Yep, here we go. You can run Python in your browser. You just need to set up an account there, and you can use it there. There's a 1-minute long video that you can watch about how it works. There's also one called Cloud9, which is c9.io. This is another in your browser working environment that you can use. There's probably some more out there. I just don't know what they are, but if it's a good alternative if you don't really have a steady computer that you would be using yourself and you need to use it somewhere else. One of those two should work for any of this code that we're going to be going through. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about getting set up and running, let me go ahead and flip forward to the code itself. So when you have a working system, you can move forward to exercise 1, which is a good first program. So the idea here is to go ahead and enter this program into your editor, which in this case is going to be PyCharm for us, and then make sure it runs. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to type in the first line, print hello world. And then I'm going to try to run it just to ensure that everything is set up and everything is working well on my system. What does this say? No new line to end the file. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so once I have my code in here, I can go to run and run this. And you'll see that it printed hello world on the screen right here. And that was what we expected it to do. So let's go ahead and type in another line here. Print hello again. So let's go ahead and try to run this. Okay. We got an error. You can tell by the red text here. It says syntax error. EOL while scanning string literal. Now, what that means is that it got to the end of the line, which is what EOL stands for, and it was expecting something else to happen, but it stopped. And in this case, we see that PyCharm is going to actually help us out with this. There's a squiggly red line underneath this, and it says missing closing quote, which is the double quote symbol. If we go ahead and put that in, the squiggly red line goes away, and we'll try running it again. And this time it worked. I think I ran it as a debug. Let's try it just as a run. Okay, there we go. Hello world, hello again. And it worked this time. That's kind of your basic debugging process there. If you run into an issue or an error, go through, read the error. PyCharm is really helpful with spotting any issues in your code syntactically. So that's a good portion of coding. All right, so let's try putting some lines in here. Print I like typing this. This is fun. Print. Yay. Printing. And one of the things that I like about this book is that although you're having to type all this stuff in, it gives you some practice with how the language feels and how using it feels. So you don't necessarily have to think right away too much about how to put the language together, but you can get some experience with how to enter it into your computer, which is really helpful because it's just one less thing to think about when you're starting out. And then at some point you're going to run into some issues, and you'll go ahead and debug it and kind of get a deeper understanding of what's going on. But it presents the coding experience to you in a way that it's not all at once. You can kind of try things out one bit at a time, which is really helpful. So I have entered all this in here. It keeps telling me it wants a line at the end, so I'll go ahead and do that. Okay. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. And it prints all that stuff out, which is good. One thing I did want to mention with the different kinds of quotes here, you'll see there's some of these lines that are in single quotes and some are in double quotes. Python doesn't care too much about which kind of quotes you're using as much as they're matching up. So in this case, you've got one single quote here and one single quote here, and it's fine. It has double quotes in the middle, and it's going to ignore those as long as the string was started with a single quote and ends with a single quote. If we tried to use single quotes in here, then it's going to give us an error because it's going to see this as the end of that string and then a new one starting up here. Same thing here. So like we have a single quote in here. So if we wrap this string in a single quote, then we start running into errors because it thinks that's the end. So as long as you start and end your string with the same quote and you don't have any of that type of quote inside the string, then Python is okay with whatever you put in there. Now, one more thing about that. Typically, you're going to be using the double quotes for a print statement or to make a string like this. There are some cases where you might use a single quote on the outside, maybe if you wanted to do something like this where it has a double quote inside the string, but the typical practice is to use double quotes, just like that. All right, so I hope this has been helpful. I think I'm going to do one more exercise before I wrap up this Hangout. And how do we save this? Control S. Maybe save automatically. Save all. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we can look through the rest of this exercise here real quick. It talks about the editors. Oh, and we could talk about running it from the command line. So if you're using PyCharm, you can see your output in PyCharm like this. But if you wanted to run it from the command line instead, we're in the folder where that program is. So if you were using, say, Vim to edit it instead of PyCharm, there's the file that we edited in PyCharm. If you wanted to run it from the command line instead of from PyCharm, you would just do Python and the name of the file, which is ex01.py. You'll see the output on the command line. You'll notice it's the exact same, exact same output that we got. From here, it's just here you've got the kind of nice integrated interface. Whereas here, if you prefer the command line style, you can do it here as well. All right, so let's go back here. Shows you what different command lines would look like if you're on Windows or on Linux or Mac. And then at the end, this is a pretty neat little section about common student questions. So these are pretty, or these are kind of like frequently asked questions about this exercise. So there are things that the authors run into that people have issues with during this exercise, and he tries to answer those in each of the exercises. And this one has a video. There's a pay version of the book and a free version of the book. The videos typically come with the paid version of the book, but I think on this one and maybe some of the other links, there is a video available that you can watch. If that helps you out, then that's great. Let's see. So let's go ahead and do the next one. We'll do the next exercise. You are more than welcome to follow along and do it in PyCharm like this, but I want to give an example of running it in the command line. So let's try it from the command line this time. And shrink this down so we can see it. All right, use Vim as my text editor. Vim x02.py. Okay. Comments. So this is about comments. Comments are lines in your code that are ignored when it runs, but you can still see them. So they're useful for writing about the code as long as it's for things that you don't want to actually have executed. Comments in Python begin with the pound symbol or the hashtag, and anything. Let's see. Here's a comment. I can type this in as I read it. So this is a comment. This is so you can read program. Yeah, so that's a good point. Sometimes you'll put comments in here for things you want to remember that aren't necessarily part of the code. Let's see what it's saying. Anything after the pound is ignored by Python. Okay. And so it only goes to the end of the line though. So you'll see that anything after that is ignored by Python, but then we start a new line and now it's not commented anymore. So if you want a line to be ignored or anything after a certain point in a line to be ignored, then go ahead and put that symbol in there. So I could have code this and comment and comment is ignored, and also use a comment to disable or comment out a piece of code. Yeah, that's a good point as well. This is valid Python code here, but it's not going to run because it's in the commented area. This will run. Okay. And then it shows you what you should see when you run it. And let's go take a look at that. So Python and the name of the file. And you'll see that that looks the same as this. And if we go back here, we can see that PyCharm actually updated with what we entered in there. And if we run it in PyCharm, just as if we had edited it in here, can I just tell? Yeah, here we go, run this. Then we get the same result here. So you don't, I mean, I wouldn't recommend using both command line and PyCharm, but those two options are available to you, and they're both good options. Choose the one you're more comfortable with. And I will leave reading the rest of that exercise to you. I hope that you found this helpful, and I hope to see you learning Python. Thank you very much, and have a great day.